How many people do you think were arrested in Britain for things they said on social media last year?
Go on.
Take a guess.
I have no idea.
3,300.
Really? Arrested for what they'd said on social media?
Yeah. Context and intent, according to these people, are irrelevant. Now, get your mind around that and think about the potential implications.
All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. I stumbled across this video of Konstantin Kassin speaking to John Anderson about how people in the UK are arrested for their social media posts far more often than we might think, you know, living here in America. Western nations historically have been seen as beacons of freedom, hope, opportunity, places you could come and bring your family and be left alone. But unfortunately, that's changed and is continuing to change very rapidly. I don't think America has quite reached the level of woke that the UK is on this issue of arresting people for social media posts. But I think there's a large demographic of people in this country who wouldn't mind seeing it. And I don't think they know exactly what they're in for if we have this become a huge reality in our country. But with that being said, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe while we're watching. Now let's roll it.
In Russia last year, 400 people were arrested for things that they said on social media. 400 people in Russia. Obviously, this country is very different. How many people do you think were arrested in Britain for things they said on social media last year?
Go on.
Take a guess.
I have no idea.
3,300.
Really? Arrested for what they'd said on social media?
Yeah.
Really? What sort of things get you arrested?
Well, one example I give in my show is there was a young woman from Liverpool called Chelsea Russell, and people can look this up. Her friend was killed in a car crash, a 19-year-old woman. And she posted the lyrics of his favorite song on her Instagram, the lyrics. And it was a rap song, so the lyrics contained several instances of the N-word. Okay? She was arrested, prosecuted, found guilty, given 500 hours of community service and a fine, tagged, and for a year she was under 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. curfew.
My goodness.
Now that is insane to me. People love to talk about the fascism of Russia, but you got more people being arrested for social media posts and things that they post online in the UK. So without a shadow of a doubt, fascism has worked its way into Western governments. The UK has a population of black people standing at about 3%, while here in America, we're about, 13%. But despite that fact, they're trying so hard to not appear racist. They're so scared of being called racist that they, in my opinion, are overcorrecting, over-fixing the quote-unquote racism problem in the UK to the point where people are getting arrested for making social media posts sharing rap lyrics.
In Britain.
In Britain?
In 2018.
So we talk about the Chinese system of social credits.
Right.
And describe it as the creation of, or the emerging of a digital prison. But we're doing it to ourselves voluntarily in the West, so to speak.
Absolutely. I mean,
so we'll cancel people socially if they say the wrong thing on social media. But you're telling me now that 3,500 people were visited by the police?
No, far more visited by the police. Far more. There are cases just half a year ago, and I defended Jo Brand, a British comedian, over this. She made some comments, which, you know, it wasn't a great joke, but she talked about this during this milkshaking episodes where people were having milkshake thrown at them. She said that, well, if I was doing it, I'd throw some acid over them, right? That's not a great joke, but she got a visit from the police on the basis that she was, quote, inciting violence. And they eventually decided not to proceed with prosecution. But it was obviously a joke. She's a comedian. She was on a comedy program. The context is very clear, right? The defining case actually in recent British history on this was the Count Dankula incident. I don't know if you're familiar with this.
No.
This is a Scottish YouTuber who made okay, so this is quite an interesting one to explain. His girlfriend had a pug dog, you know those little ugly dogs?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm going to get in trouble
you'll
now.
Be in trouble.
Yeah,
You can expect a call. You've offended pug dogs.
Exactly. And she thought it was the cutest thing in the world. Yeah. And he wanted to annoy her for a prank. So he trained the dog to be the most horrific thing that he could think of, which in this case was a Nazi. So he trained this dog to do a Nazi salute. Right? He posted it on YouTube to his 3 subscribers at the time. And overnight, the video went completely viral. 3 million views in like a week. He was arrested, convicted, found guilty, fined £800. And he is, to this
What
day...
precisely was the charge?
It was hate speech.
Hate speech.
Hate speech, yeah. Oh, no, sorry. It was grossly offensive. He was being grossly offensive. That's the correct legal terminology. And he, to this day, is a hate criminal. When the papers write about him, they're legally allowed to call him a Nazi hate criminal.
Wow.
That is where we are. And it really started with that. I talk about all of these things in my show, where we are now in a position where, in that court case, the prosecutor argued that context and intent are irrelevant.
And this is why terms like racist, Nazi, white supremacist are starting to mean less and less. The guy made a joke. It may have been a joke in poor taste, but he only had 3 subscribers. I'm sure he didn't think that he was going to wake up and become, you know, the face of Nazism, but they're labeling him a full-on Nazi terrorist when all he did was make a joke online. If you can show me someone being a true racist or someone being a true Nazi, I'll, you know, speak out against that right along with you. But when we stretch these harsh terms to mean things outside of what they typically mean in their truest and worst forms, this is how you end up with stories like this. Let's wrap this up.
Judge accepted this.
Really?
So even by retelling the story to you now, I am potentially engaging in grossly offensive behavior. Context and intent, according to these people, are irrelevant. Now, get your mind around that and think about the potential implications of that.
Well, it's extraordinary.
That is where we are. It's funny, like I said, we were chatting before, I think we started, I was having dinner with a friend from Saudi Arabia about this. And I told her, and she couldn't believe it. You know, so what does that say about us? Do you know what I mean? And she was like, really, in Britain? But isn't this a free country? That is where we are. And that's why, as I say, we have to push back against it and go back to what are our fundamental values as a civilization, John? What are they? Freedom of speech, freedom of association, as you said, right? And respect for the individual and the rights of the individual. That's not to say that community isn't important, but there's a level of rights that we all have.
All right, guys, that's it for the video. I think it's very important to listen to these warnings from other Westerners, people who live in Australia and people that live in the UK, because things that they try and succeed with over there, we will see them here one day. Like I said earlier, there are people who wish with every fiber of their being that they could lock up a white person or lock up anyone that happens to be a Republican and just says the wrong thing, or conservative and says the wrong thing online. And I think during the 2020 lockdowns, what we saw was our government officials and the powers that be here in America seeing just how far they could stretch their abuse of power and tell us what we can and cannot do, tell us what we can and cannot say, tell us what is facts and what isn't facts with these fact checkers. You know, there are people who lost their jobs for not getting vaccines. There are people who lost their jobs for being Trump supporters. We don't want to live in a society like that, because it's nice when it benefits you, when you aren't on the side of the people being arrested for their beliefs. But as soon as that pendulum swings, it could be you. It will be you, matter of fact. And like he said at the end there, freedom of speech, freedom of the individual, and just freedom to express what you want to express is what we want to maintain in this country so that it can be a free country and we could all be prosperous underneath it. But it's like the people who scream fascism the loudest don't see how it's coming right to our front doorstep. But that's it for the video, you guys. Let me know what you thought about this in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe on your way out the door. Until next time, you guys, I'm out of here. Peace.